Yeah, pretty much. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Welcome to our podcast. We don't have a name for it yet. We didn't even think about that until this moment.
That's right.
But would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Jocelyn Lang.
And I'm the other one, Corey Lang. And together we're hosting this podcast. And we'll have a name for it next time.
At some point.
But the point of this podcast is going to be to talk a little bit about mental health, do a little bit deeper dive into the blog that's on the Vive Therapy Services website. And this episode, we're going to be talking about gratitude.
Yay!
So I just wanted to ask you, have you got a moment? Are you grateful for anything?
Am I grateful for anything? Yeah, absolutely. Yesterday was our daughter's 3rd birthday, and it's hard not to be filled with gratitude when you see your kid being awesome, and she is awesome.
Yeah, that was huge. That's a huge one to be grateful for, actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's like eclipsing all the other little grateful things because I'm just so grateful for our sweet little child.
Obviously, that's like a freebie, you know?
Yeah, that
it's
is
like
kind of a gimme.
the middle of the bingo board.
Oh, yeah, good one.
But yeah, there's tons of other things I'm very grateful for. I love knitting. I'm very grateful for being jazzed about a project.
Nice.
Because it's been kind of uninspiring recently.
Wow,
so.
that was some heavy nonverbal body language I just received that I would like to translate to you listeners. There was a big old face rub. There was some glasses adjustment. It seems like it's been heavy.
Yeah, knitting is such a big part of my life. So when it's not going well or it's boring or tedious, it sucks, you know, and especially like the past few weeks have been rough, we don't have to go into it, but
Just in general, you're talking about.
Yes.
Okay.
And so I've just been needing an outlet, and my outlet was not outletting until now. So I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, it's clicked.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yes.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Getting back into a hobby after a little bit of I guess you would call it something like writer's block.
Yes, very much.
How did you get back into that? I know the answer to this because I watched you do that, but it's something that I love. I love this process of fighting writer's block.
Yeah,
Block.
I had 3 whips, work progress.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I had 3 whips going, and they were all not sparking any joy with me. I was like kind of trudging through them, forcing myself to finish them because I said I would.
Yeah.
And I hated them all. And then I realized I don't need to freaking do any of these. Like, this is just for me. So if I want to destroy these whips, I can. And so I did. I frogged 3 projects that had been...
Frogged.
Yeah, it just means like ripping your stitches out. You know, you rip it.
Rip it. Oh, I didn't know that's why it was called that. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
That's cute.
So yeah, I frogged 3 projects, and that felt really good. And then I started a new kind of fun one that has no pattern, and I just kind of went for it, and I'm loving it.
That's cool. That's really like operating without a net to go without a pattern. You're freestyling, basically.
Yeah.
That's cool. And what is the overall project you're starting?
It is a light blue raglan style sweater with cable increases. So
that's really cool.
I think it'll be very charming.
Yeah. So if you speak knitting
you'll
jargon,
know what that means.
Yeah. It's a very pretty blue sweater is what I can tell you. And there is some cabling going on. Not like your whole cable knit sweater, whole jib jab like mishmash.
No, I do not like
the... It's a very tasteful, small amount.
Yes, like the Rory Gilmore type sweaters are not my fave.
Wow, calling them out.
It's not my fave, but I do like a little bit of charm, a little bit of detailing, and I'm getting it more into it now. And yeah, I kind of had a vision for it, and I went for it.
I love that. I suppose I should share something I'm grateful for. Yeah, Amari's birthday. Should I say her name, Amari? That's our daughter's name. Her birthday was obviously incredible. We got together with our family. Like, we made some good memories. It was great. Loved having everybody over at our house, which is like rare because we have wild dogs, which will become apparent on an audio medium like a podcast at some point. I remember to close the windows, so hopefully they won't bark. But another thing that I'm really grateful for is kind of like you. I kind of busted through some writer's block pretty recently for writing music. I also have been messing around with this cool virtual horn instrument that I found, and that has been really cool. I've been really grateful for that actually because I've been going back into some of my older songs and being like, man, there are some of these songs that I had to change completely because I didn't have like a proper like trumpet or saxophone or anything, and I go back and I just put the good one in there, and
it needs more cowbell.
Yeah, exactly. I go back and it's like, wow, this song that I kind of didn't like after having to compromise on it, I like again, and maybe I can do something with it. So that's been really cool. Yeah, so getting reinvigorated with old hobbies, definitely something worth being grateful for. Let's talk a little bit about the science of gratitude. I will be providing some science right now. I'm going to read to you the research that I did in preparation. There's a handful of studies that I want to talk about that will just say really how cool gratitude is. Because at this point, you might be thinking gratitude is very nebulous.
Yeah, everyone has heard of it.
Everyone has heard of it, and
everyone
it's sort
has
of
their own idea of what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to like we're recording this in November. It's about to be American Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. It's a time when gratitude's meaning kind of gets like expanded to be a bunch of other stuff. But what we're talking about specifically is like expressing your gratitude, like either vocally or like written or whatever. And it's not necessarily to another person. It can be, written in a journal. It can be spoken just yourself. It can be any sort of gratitude exercise. And we'll get more into that later. But so that's basically what we're talking about when we're talking about the I guess I would call it the psychological principle of gratitude.
Yeah, not the consumerification.
Yeah, we're not talking about like material goods and being like grateful for them necessarily.
With the word grateful on it.
Yeah, not to show our hands too much, but like, yeah, that's not what we're talking about. Okay, so there was this 2003 study, this was by Emmons and McCullough, that found that individuals who kept gratitude journals reported higher levels of happiness and well-being compared to those who didn't. So that's pretty good, just some points in the camp of keeping gratitude journals. There was research in 2017 by Lynn that showed that gratitude had a strong positive impact on psychological well-being, again, self-esteem, and even depression, even when controlling for certain personality traits. There was also in the same year a 2017 study by Brown and Wong that published in the journal Psychological Science that found that writing gratitude letters significantly improved mental health for individuals seeking counseling. And then just a couple of years ago, research from the Mayo Clinic indicated that practicing gratitude can improve sleep, mood, immunity, decrease depression, anxiety, and chronic pain. So that sounds pretty flippin' powerful, honestly. Like, there's this thing within us that we can express that can heal us, basically, it sounds like.
I mean, essentially it is kind of the idea of like you are what you eat, like what you consume is what you put out, what you like think about, and like the whole idea of manifestation, which this is not a conversation about that, but
that's maybe another podcast episode.
Yeah, I mean, but like gratitude I like to describe it as like a muscle. Mm-hmm. You have to practice, right? Yeah. Like if you were to start writing with your left hand, what would that feel like?
Garbage.
Yeah, your hand would probably get tired and crampy, and you would probably get frustrated. The product would probably look ugly and weird.
Rude. Are we talking about me specifically?
Yes.
So where were we? Listeners, we had a brief technical malfunction, but we're back.
So I do remember.
Oh, great.
Building a muscle, right?
Right,
like,
right.
The more you work on it, right, the easier it becomes. But the idea is, right, like if your brain is just used to being grateful or seeing the positives in things, it's easier to get into that framework of mind.
It comes much more naturally.
Exactly. And especially right now in our culture and our world, things are really negative. And people do not have strong gratitude muscles. And it can be very self-perpetuating, right? The negativity can be really self-perpetuating the same way positive thinking and positivity, happiness, can also be just as contagious.
Yeah, that's true. I totally agree with you with what you said about like we as a society, we're kind of bad at flexing our gratitude muscle.
Yeah, we're really bad.
Yeah, it can be pretty rough. Like you can ask anybody who works in the service industry or the retail space, like obviously it's not like a 100% problem. There's a lot of people out there doing that good work of being thankful, having a lot of gratitude,
Yeah.
But yeah, it can be tough out there with a lot of people who aren't flexing their muscle.
And something as simple as like consumerism, right? I feel like that has become so rampant of like, buy more, instead of like fixing what you have, go get a new one. And in the same token, right, I think that there's been this push to like underconsume, and that's like another trendy topic. But with it, I think I've seen a lot more, like with that content, I see a lot more like, let's be grateful for what we have. And like, again, that's kind of like a surface level of like idea of gratitude. But I think it just goes to show how far we've come from being able to practice that when it's not fall or when, we've been forced to.
Yes. If anyone's wondering why we sound so dejected, just remember that it's middle of November in 2024. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about some simple ways that we can be grateful. Because we've talked about it being nebulous. I feel like we haven't even really gotten it less nebulous. Specifically, what are we talking about? Like, we gave some examples earlier of like, you said you were grateful for Amari, and then we did these stories about the things that we were grateful for, but they don't have to be that complex.
Absolutely.
Like I have a tree. It's a little wooden tree that's got these little slots on the branches where you can put like these green pieces of paper that you fold up and they look like leaves. And anyway, they're really small pieces of paper. It's like the size, and this is going to sound really strange, but it's the size and shape of like a human eyeball. And there's just enough room for like one sentence. And that's kind of what we're talking about to start with. Like that is gratitude. Like really thinking about it and like being mindful of like, what am I grateful for? And then like even writing it down in one simple sentence is enough to go through the exercise.
Yeah. I think we'll talk about this more later, but it goes hand in hand with being mindful, right? Because if I'm being mindful in this moment and just being present in my space, right, I can already start to see and feel things that I am grateful for, right? Like I love drinking. I have 2 drinks in front of me. I have coffee and water.
Yes, that's what she meant by drinking.
Yes.
Just to be clear.
No, I hate alcohol. But, I see you. I'm grateful for you, our home, the home we've built. Like it really is just about noticing the moment. And I say this to clients all the time, that when you are present in the moment, that's usually not where your anxiety lives, and it's not where your depression lives. And so being mindful can really help shift, and it's attached to that muscle of gratitude. And like I said, they just go hand in hand. But yes, you have your gratitude tree.
Yes.
I actually do have a gratitude journal, or at least it's part of my journaling routine. I journal daily. And I always have a section for gratitude. And I just name a few things that I have been particularly grateful for in that week, in that day. It's usually simple things like my coffee or our dogs.
Yeah. Rarely.
Dogs. Knitting, weed.
Yeah. You're talking like a bulleted list.
Yeah, exactly.
Simple, easy, perfect. Let's talk a little bit. Well, let's go through a few more examples of ways to practice gratitude, and then I want to go back to the concept of mindfulness because I think that's another one of those nebulous terms that it would behoove us in our podcast to define. And another thing that I just realized is you introduced yourself and you said your name, but you did not give your credentials.
Yeah, so I have a master's in clinical psychology, and I'm a licensed clinical professional. Oh my gosh. I don't even know.
No, that was right. Licensed clinical professional counselor. She's an
yes,
LCPC.
Sorry. I'm a licensed clinician in the state of Illinois.
Yes. It's early right now. This is a morning record. But yes, she's and also the owner and founder of the practice that we're doing this podcast for, Vibe Therapy Services.
That's right.
So she knows what she's talking about, people. We should have said that at the beginning.
Sorry.
She is the expert. I am merely a billing director for the practice, and a husband, and a supporter. So I'm the layperson, and I'm just here to.
But you also have your hand in a lot of things as well.
I have my bachelor's in psychology.
Yes.
I'm a big part of the business. I'm a co-founder.
I also don't want to discount like personal experience with mental health or
True.
like in
I'm
the
a mental health
field.
haver, a mental health user, mental health sufferer, mental health survivor.
Yeah, I do think that counts for a lot. I think people who have been forced to pay attention to their mental health.
That's true.
Learn a lot along the way, and I think personal experience is just as valid.
Yeah. And so in that way, I hope that my perspective is in some way.
So sorry.
That's okay. I hope my perspective is in some way, I don't know, worthwhile or unique.
Relevant.
Or brings something to the conversation. But anyway, so back to what we were saying about some actual practical ways to exercise your gratitude. So we talked about the gratitude journal. That's something that you do. You talked about a bulleted list. You can get as specific as you want or as detailed as you want. It's your journal. Another thing that we have done in the past, or something similar that we have done, is a gratitude jar. Similar to the tree that I was talking about, you don't have to buy or make a tree. If you have a jar, like a mason jar, just keep some little pieces of paper by it and write something on there and fill it up one day at a time.
Yeah, I am also a realist. Having worked with a lot of people, I think a key aspect to incorporating anything like a new habit is having it be integrated into your routine already.
Yes.
So if you're not a journaler and you don't write, like I don't recommend a gratitude journal. People who might work out, that might be a good time to reflect on things that we're grateful for.
Right. Yes.
I like to, like I said, incorporate things into things that are already part of your routine, like your commutes to work, showers, your morning and nightly routines. Those are all really wonderful opportunities for you to just tune inward and like, again, being, practicing being a little mindful, and setting that intention, right? So if you do take walks every evening after work, for example, maybe you set the intention of like, okay, I'm going to practice being grateful, or I'm going to practice gratitude. And, it does go twofold. You do have to essentially challenge our negative, intrusive thoughts, which are very common.
Yes. That is a really good point. And maybe we can actually jump ahead a little bit to, there are barriers to gratitude.
Yeah,
it
so
can
many.
be really hard to express gratitude, especially if you're feeling like what you just described. Like if you're feeling really crappy, you don't want to do gratitude.
Yeah.
But I would argue that is like literally the most important time to try.
Yes. If you're able to, right, it does involve a lot of metacognition. So thinking about thinking.
Yeah, thinking about your thoughts.
But if you're able to even just identify when you're having a intrusive negative thought or just a negative thought in general, right, seeing the world as half empty or whatever, allowing yourself to stop, right, and say, I can choose not to think like this.
Yes.
And I know it sounds very simple, but as we all know, putting it in practice is a lot harder. But I do encourage you, like I said, it's a muscle. The more you practice it, the easier it does become.
Yeah, we do say practice for a reason.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, eventually writing with your dominant hand is natural. You don't even think about it.
Right.
The same way thinking with a lens of gratitude can eventually become natural second nature, not even thinking about it.
Right. It's really good if you struggle with something like this, really good to start small. Cannot oversell starting small.
You got 5 digits on your hand?
Yeah.
Name off 5 things, right?
Yes. Let's say right now, I'm going to say, I'm grateful that your mom is watching our daughter so we can record this podcast right now.
Yes.
I'm grateful that I had batteries here to change the thing, to change the batteries on the microphone when it died. I'm grateful. I already said a lot of things I'm grateful for, but I'm really going to keep trying. I'm grateful that I had basically everything that we needed to start this podcast, like mechanically, like the equipment wise. I'm also really grateful that finally our flowers have started to bloom in the kitchen of these plants that we've had for like over a year. And I'm finally glad. I am grateful for, I need a fifth freaking thing, y'all.
You can do it. It's like doing one more push up on your set, you know?
Yes. You know what? I'm actually really grateful that we are sitting down and doing this podcast and that it seems like it's coming kind of easily to it. Like our conversation is flowing. I'm feeling good about it.
Me too. No,
Cool.
That's great.
Well, there's 5 things. That took like a minute.
It did take like a minute, and it was hard. It was hard for you.
It was a little hard.
And I only point that out because it is hard. Like, I don't want anybody listening to think that, like, I don't know, that this is like silly, you know?
Yeah, it's not. It's definitely not silly or arbitrary or meaningless. It's also
effective.
Yes, very. Yeah, I agree. Should we talk a little bit about like our closing thoughts or any additional tips or tricks? Do you have any other gratitude activities that you can think of?
Yeah, I think anything that puts you in the moment is a really good.
I just remembered we're going to go back and talk about mindfulness.
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe this will lead right into that.
Yeah.
But any activity that puts you in the moment is a really good time to practice gratitude because the neural pathways are just a little bit more open for you to actually access that part of your brain. So taking a nature walk, right, which we mentioned earlier, spending time with family off of our phones, being... I like to do this activity in session with clients sometimes where I ask them, like, what are you hear right now? And they list off everything that they can hear.
That's a really good one.
That just puts you in the moment, right? Eating is another really mindful or can be a very mindful activity. Yes. You can appreciate the tastes, what you're eating, how it feels going down your throat, into your stomach, the sensation of feeling full, I think we don't often slow down enough to even notice the things that we get to do. I mean, like, I look at these plants. Plants don't get to eat. They just put their leaves out in the sun, and that's how they get full. But, like, we get to freaking eat. I mean, think about some of the awesome foods we get to eat. I mean... ice cream. We've had a ton of ice cream this week.
And cake and pizza.
Yeah, like
think about how good pizza is for real.
Like the heat.
Eat your first bite of pizza. If you black out during your first bite of pizza, you are cheating yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, again, we live a very go kind of culture here. And most people don't even sit down to eat. They're usually eating at their desks or in their cars or standing on the go, standing up.
Next to each other, over the sink like rats.
We do that a lot. But I do encourage y'all to enjoy your meal, right? Like, I have a bunch of Hershey's Kisses in the office.
What?
And I encourage clients to eat a chocolate and notice it, right?
Oh, yeah. You're
notice.
like Professor Lupin in Harry Potter. Eat this chocolate. It'll help. It'll really help. After Harry's fighting the Dementors. We watched this not even that long ago.
Bro, Harry Potter turns into mush. Into one big Harry Potter mush ball in my head.
That's fair. Okay.
I did not get introduced to it as a child, so I don't have those strong neural connections.
You don't have to defend your disinterest in Harry Potter. It's 2024. There's a lot of reasons to not F's with Harry Potter
Yeah,
anymore.
actually, yeah. But anyway, it's important to be in a mindful state, even slightly, if you're trying to also practice gratitude.
Yes. And I thought maybe...
We were going to talk about mindfulness.
Yeah. Oh.
Was there more that you wanted to add?
No, I was just thinking maybe we could take a moment to be mindful, maybe. Just slow down and... What do you hear? What do you hear, listener?
You hear us?
I hear our refrigerator mostly.
I hear dogs licking something in the other room.
Gross. I hope listeners can't hear that.
Yeah, I hear the cars passing outside on the street.
Mm-hmm.
The garbage trucks.
Yeah. It's nice. It is nice to take a quiet moment.
You know, it is. I'm looking at you and it is. Like, literally right now, it's nice. It's so nice.
Yeah.
I might cry.
Oh, that's great. You can. This is the perfect podcast for that, honestly. But I'm going to have to ask that if you do it heaving sobs, that you do it away from the microphone.
I cry all the time.
It happens. I cry quite a lot as well. You crying right now?
No, it passed.
Yeah, I see it not passing. Well, anyway, listeners, that's kind of been our show. Mm-hmm. We're kind of freewheeling it here. We don't really have much of a structure. We're just talking about what we talk about on the blog, but just talking about a little more, getting that professional angle. Because the blogs are written by me, folks. Mm-hmm. So I do my research, but I don't have the years of clinical experience that Jocelyn has. So she brings a great perspective. She's making faces indicating I should stop. So we're going to go ahead and close up the podcast. But we just want to thank you so much for listening. And if you liked it, or if you thought it was worth listening to, maybe tell somebody. Because we're a brand new podcast and nobody listens to this. So if you're listening to this, you're already like an angel. Can you if you know any other angels, let us know.
Yes, please listen to our podcast. Read our blog. Mm-hmm. Check out our website and Instagram.
Yeah.
Well, I'm talking about the practice, I guess.
Yes.
And maybe, should I talk a little bit about the practice?
Yeah, go ahead and talk about the practice.
The practice is based in Illinois, so if you want therapy in Illinois...
Mm-hmm. We offer telehealth all throughout the state.
We offer telehealth throughout the state, and we do accept private insurance. Mm-hmm.
We offer in-person sessions in Wheaton, Illinois.
I was just about to name the insurances we accept.
Oh, please do.
Blue Cross Blue Shield PPO plans, United Healthcare, Aetna, Cigna, and we also offer private pay rates. Mm-hmm. And therapy doesn't have to be super clinical. My approach is very personal and personable.
As are a lot of our clinicians.
Yes, I think it's important for us to arrive and show up to therapy as humans first. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, we believe that you are the expert in your life and we're going to meet you there.
That's right. That's very well put. So thank you very much for listening. Once again, I'm Corey Lang.
And I'm Jocelyn Lang.
And this podcast does not yet have a name.
But it's over.
Bye.
Bye.